You should stop that laugh. You laugh too much. Bro, have you ever heard that?
What's that?
That you've got a horrible laugh.
Me? Hi guys.
Hey guys, you are tuned in to Refining Perspectives. My name is Muhlali Muzani.
And I'm Tomando Vumindabo.
Today we'll be talking about being true to yourself, authenticity.
Yeah. And I believe that it's going to be a great conversation, bro. Because,
Absolutely.
you know, when you talk about authenticity,
Yeah.
And so in today's episode, we're going to be unpacking what we're talking about when we talk about authenticity.
Absolutely. Tune in. So, bro, it's those subtle comments like the one that I made at the beginning that often make us to shrink from being the person that we are meant to be. And perhaps, bro, you can start this by defining to us what does authenticity mean, and then we can depart from there.
Wow. Well, welcome back, Mbukele Kai, and hope that you're having a beautiful Friday wherever you are watching us right now. Well, as Wihlal said, you said we're talking about authenticity.
Yes, bro, yes.
And the definition of the word authentic is A, worthy of acceptance or belief as conforming to or based on fact. B says conforming to an original so as to reproduce essential features. Then the last one, it made or done the same way as an original. Not false or an imitation. Through to one's own personality, spirit, or character. That is authenticity.
Bro, to me, that is actually interesting, especially the first few definitions where it spoke about conforming. Conforming is changing to, or it's changing to.
Yeah.
So now that actually makes me, you know, when we were actually reading up on the resources before this, there is a default state that we all find ourselves in, and that is the state of deceiving ourselves of who we are. A state where you are told by society, you are told by your parents who you are and who you meant to be. And who you are is not really based on the truth of your character, the truth of your personality, and the truth of your spirit, which is who you are intrinsically. So now we allow sociology kukho kuthiwa yi-socialization. So kukho kuthiwa yi-primary socialization, secondary. Primary takes place in the family, secondary takes place in your community, at school, and then
your friends,
and so forth. So with that socialization, if now there's a lack of awareness of who you are intrinsically, which is where we all find ourselves by default. Because the awareness is not something that's there from the offset. From the offset, we are conditioned in by society, by our families. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I get what you are getting to. And there's an interesting point that we came across when we were reading up on this. And it talked about the fact that usually what you'll find is that when we are, being socialized, if I may use the word, we usually tend to go back to the default mode, which is usually conforming. Because when we look at ourselves, because what I believe is, bro, we all have those authentic features about ourselves. Those things that come without you even having to think about. They are innate. Sometimes you find that you are a person who's, a speaker.
They're usually distinct, bro. Unique.
They're unique
attributes.
Unique attributes about you. Now, when you get to that point of being socialized, perhaps maybe in your family or in the secondary socialization, and you find that the features that are distinct and unique about you, they are not common in the circle that you
find yourself in,
then usually we tend to go back to the default state of wanting to conform and hide those features.
On that note, perhaps let's look at the word conforming, right? We can either conform outwardly or conform inwardly. And perhaps that is the question of the day. Uguti now,
how are you conforming? Are you conforming
inwardly or are you conforming externally?
Are you allowing yourself to be shaped by things and how people and society views things?
Absolutely.
Or are you allowing your true nature to be the one that you conform to and you bring it out
into the world?
And I think this is it's quite interesting because I didn't think that today's episode is really interlinked to what we were talking about last week. But now when I come to think about it, we from the past 2 weeks, we were kind of having the backdrop of that poem by Williamson, Our Greatest Fear. And it talks about how when, our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, but we're powerful beyond measures. And how when we allow ourselves to be, we actually allow other people to be. And I'm just thinking about that, most of the time because of our fear. Because I think it's fear in majority that actually causes us, rather than conforming to who we are, we conform to the external factors because it's easier to fit in like that. But then now we find that there is this cycle of non-authentic people, in society. And then what I would ask perhaps, is it even, do you think, for yourself, is it even, worth it today to remain authentic to oneself? And how do you even know that you are actually authentic now?
To oneself.
Bro,
on that note, we know that we are authentic to ourselves the moment we appreciate the relativity of life. The moment you are able to comprehend with your mind that death is not something that you should be non-different about. That death can happen tomorrow. Anytime. You will be more cognizant of the hours that you spend. You'll be more cognizant of the days that you spend. That then means that you would rather live out your truest self now than...
So you understanding the brevity of life kind of makes you want to live, in expression of your authentic self.
Absolutely, bro. So that is to say, how would one know that they are truly authentic when they, are living as unapologetically as themselves, And, bro, this topic, it's actually it's very touching for me.
To your heart.
It's close to my heart. And you know that, I recently lost my mom, for example. And, if anything, you grieve and you mourn. But, one of the things for me that stood out was the fact that, when I remembered one thing I can remember about my mom. And that's that, bro, she lived her true self. She was her. She was her. And that's one thing that I promised myself that I want to also bring into the world. To live out my truest self. For people, how will people remember you, Toban?
For people not to wonder when they're talking about Tubuhlali.
Yes.
To know this is him. This is the kind of person Buhlali was.
This was the person that was. And whether it was raining, whether it was cold, this is what Buhlali had to offer the world.
And that exactly speaks to even the definition that is here. Because one of the definitions in Oxford, it talks about, because it gives the synonyms of the word authenticity. And one of the synonyms is reliability. Because I believe that once you become authentic to yourself, you also then in return become a person who's reliable. Because if I know Guti Buhlali is this sort of person, then I know Guti, even if I come to him, this is how he will respond. This is how he is. And it's quite funny because when you talk to me and you introduce this idea of authenticity. I kind of was asking myself, how does it actually link even to the reality of today? And now I'm just thinking to myself, perhaps maybe because it is proven in studies that today in the 21st century, when it comes to relationships, us as young people, we know that we can't rely on the people who we hold as friends.
Absolutely.
And I think it speaks to exactly that, because most of us are not authentic.
Yeah, bro.
You know, we portray this facade, so that it's difficult for in our circles to be able to rely on one another.
And you know why, bro? Yeah, bro. A lack of authenticity leads to us not being able to commit fully. Yeah, bro. We then become scattered because now I want to be this to you. I want to be this to you. I want to be different things to different people. And like, that's what someone will say. You're not the Holy Spirit.
You're not the Holy Spirit. Omnipresent.
Yeah, bro. You should decide who you should be and be that. Yeah, bro. So that
and I'm sorry to interject
no problem,
there, because
bro.
I'm just thinking, you know, sometimes we kind of theorize even the Bible, because there's a scripture that says, you ought to, your yes has to be a yes,
and your no has to be a no.
And I think that fits completely in
that. Bro, listen, the reason why money is real is because today 10 rand. Yeah. It won't wake up tomorrow. We won't wake up tomorrow with 10 rand, 20 rand. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And whatever you get 10 rand, you get 10 rand.
Yeah.
So that's what we should take as a principle in our lives. That now bro. Tina, it's almost like as 10 rand, I want to overcome
50 rand in And you know, I'm just thinking, there's an example that one person once made, exactly, but he was talking about the value, you know, and he took out, you know, I think a 50 rand note, and he took that 50 rand note and he, you know, and he asked about how much is the value of this 50 rands? And what? 50 rands, of course. How much is the value? 50 rands, of course.
Change.
It doesn't change. And I think that speaks to them the importance of really being authentic to yourself and knowing who you are, knowing your identity, because then even the experiences that happen around you, they won't change the value that you know you have. But they mean the moment that you don't know your value, you don't know who you are authentically, then everything that is around you can shape who you think you are, even the value that you think you espouse as a person.
What was the first definition, bro, that spoke of acceptance?
Okay, let me go and find it again. So, the definition of authentic as an adjective, it's worthy of acceptance or belief.
Sure. Worthy of acceptance. Do you believe that? Do you believe that you are worthy
of acceptance? No, I don't believe that, bro, because I want to fit in. I want to be accepted.
Exactly. Now, that's the thing. If we could understand, bro, that our intrinsic value, by virtue of us coming into earth and being born, our true nature, our intrinsic value is worthy
of acceptance.
So that means that despite other people accepting us or not outwardly,
so it's going to sound cliche, but before you go and seek acceptance from the world, accept yourself. Know that you are worthy of acceptance. So you don't need to go around seeking to be accepted, because then that's how we fall into that trap of, you know, trying to conform ourselves to the ideas that people have of who we are. So that's why this about when I'm with you.
Exactly.
Any version when I'm with someone
and perhaps
else.
What are the implications of not being authentic before we go to the break? The implications of not being authentic is that you will have other people live your life for you. The implications of you not being authentic is that when you die, you will not be remembered for anything because you were everything to everybody.
Before we go to the break, because then this speaks to even why in the 21st century we have spoken a lot to young people about peer pressure. Because you are easily influenced if you have this need to be accepted. Well, Mbugelekai, just sit tight, relax, make sure that you call everyone who missed the first part of the show to come back and enjoy the second half of the show. We're going to be back right now.
In a world where there's so much information, do we know what shapes our ideas? Join Lebo and Buhlayo Refining Perspectives exclusive, talking leadership and more on Tuesdays on Radio 537.
Well, welcome back, guys. Tobes, we're still here.
Yes.
Guys, we'd like to encourage you also to tune into our YouTube channel, search Refining Perspectives. Let's keep the conversation going there as well.
Definitely. And also find us on Instagram. We are Refining Perspectives as well there.
Yes.
So, before the break, we're just talking about the implication of this lack of authenticity, if we may say, today, that has resulted even in the spike of teachings around, having to talk about peer pressure and why we find ourselves in that point where we are talking about peer pressure, because we have found out. In fact, maybe we did not find that out, the cause of the problem is that, but we saw there is this, towards being easily influenced by our peers. But this issue is the lack of authenticity to who we truly are.
And Tobbs, at the core of it, when kuthethwa about underlying human needs, because as human beings we have needs. We've got psychological needs, we've got like physical needs as well. But more of our psychological needs, what they include is a sense of belonging. We all have a deep yearning to belong. And before the ad break, you had spoken about how if we all have a need of affirmation, approval, validation, appreciation, and all of those things. But where that comes from, it comes from the deeper need of belonging. So now the question, or what I would like to say or suggest when I talk is that you cannot belong to a community if you do not belong to yourself first. And what that means is that I'm not saying that you cannot find yourself part of a community. Yes, you can find yourself part of a community even though you don't belong to yourself first, but you will just be a replica, or you will just be part
You're going to be a reflection of the society or the community that you find yourself
Absolutely.
in.
Whereas if you belong to yourself first, that then gives you an opportunity to accept yourself as who you are. We find those principles in the family context, Toban. Do you understand your family that like the one of the values or the principles that I hold in the family is you
have that sense of this is who I am.
You
show up as you are.
As you are, Koenu. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, you can, you at your house. I mean, I know me. I walk around, with my underwear at home. There's no shame. There's no guilt, because fundamentally I understand that there's acceptance here. There's approval. I have a sense of belonging, and not belonging as someone else, but belonging as who I am.
And there's this guy they call Maslow. And
hierarchy of needs.
The hierarchy of needs. He came up that, and part of that in the hierarchy of need, in the foundation, it's a sense of belonging. Once I'm secured in terms of security, food, and everything, the next thing in the hierarchy, it's a sense of belonging. And I think that's why today in our society, the topics around fitting in, peer pressure, have over after in the 21st century, was a conversation that need to be had. But the problem, we have had those conversations from a reaction point of view,
and not really a proactive.
Not understanding what they are coming from what, because now we are no longer in that state of we are in slavery, we are in apartheid, and the only thing that is fundamental is for us to have security and for us to have food. Now all those two things are secured. Now we are moving higher in the hierarchy where we need to have a sense of belonging. That is why I think in the 21st century, to our generation, belonging is something that is very important. But
absolutely.
As you rightly say, we can't belong to a society, we can't belong to a community, we can't belong to our friends before first belonging to ourselves.
Remember, there was a stage where there was FOMO, a fear of missing out. And you'll find that it's still there. Though people do not call it FOMO, but you'll find that now in our generation it's still persisting.
Too much.
And the reason why it's able to persist is because I feel that if I don't follow that Instagram account, or if I don't retweet that tweet, then a part of me is left out. And the only way for me to be relevant, or the only way for me to be part of, is for me to take place in what other people are taking place, even though sometimes I won't take some time to reason out. You see, one of the benefits of you having a sense of belonging to yourself is that now you look at the things that you associate yourselves with. 1, 2, you even are able to watch your diet. You're able to watch the things that you take in. You're able to belong to yourself. You're able to not be afraid to be unique and
because
different.
You are first your own person before becoming someone else's friend, someone else's brother, someone else's colleague. You are first yourself. You belong to you, and you know what first, this is who I am. So therefore, I know what I should associate with who I am. So then the problem is sometimes not having a defined, idea of who we are. So then everything else around us ends up defining us. Those relationships that we build, they end up defining us. Sometimes we go into relationships that were supposed, you are the salt in that relationship, but because you are not defined, you end up being influenced. And becoming,
bro. And that also leads to why relationships fail in our generation. We come to relationships incomplete. So we come need is do you understand?
So
I'm not happy, so make me happy.
And I'm coming to you because you are the ideal person.
So now I've attached my happiness and the sense of my being to you. That means that now it's a reciprocal cycle of things that that don't work out
at all. And now the thing is, one mistake that one thing that you do is not reciprocating. It's a mess.
It's a mess because now, Tobani, I had this expectation, and maybe now, dude, there's a lot that contributes.
There's a lot, and maybe we'll need to unpack this more next week.
Next week. But basically, I'm just thinking now, that's a consumerist mindset, and it goes to what we spoke about in the beginning of these big corporates and all of that playing a role on social media, playing a role to cultivate minds in us that want, and if this is not
you can go and find
I can go and find it. And the problem with that is that now it also links to our episode about contentment, because now we are never fully satisfied with ourselves. And what we're trying to say with belonging to man, once you accept yourself, son, if impumulo yakho inkulu ithande yakho if ufuna unxibe izipeks zithande zezakho kuwe lowo. You understand?
If then we could get to that point of really accepting ourselves, we would not have this highly sensitive society that we have today, because you find that today, even when you're speaking to, you need to tread extra carefully, because are bound to have not actually accepted themselves. Because if you have accepted yourself, even a doesn't faze you, your friendship won't end.
Exactly. And, bro, I want to just emphasize on this thing of what you said about being sensitive. A thing about being authentic means that you are living in truth. Truth of who you are, and you're not deceived. Jonga, xa ungena sense of belonging kuwe isiqu sakho awuyithandi nyani. Ufuna uxelelo lento izokuvisa mnandi. You don't like the truth. Can truth meets you at your truth, like you being fully expressive of who you are, because you understand, Toban, that you are evolving, you are growing, you are conforming.
Someone once said that the terrible thing about someone who expresses a persona, who lives out a life of a persona, is not authentic. Now, the thing is that once you start to take off one thing and you tell him the truth or her the truth about that, it feels as if you are going to rip off the whole facade and the persona. So that's why I will not like you telling me the truth, because I've been trying to convince myself this is who I am. Whereas at the back of my mind, I know very well that's not who I am.
And perhaps, Tobes, it's not out of spite, it's not out of anything that we are proposing this topic of authenticity, but it's for our benefit. We are real people living in the real world. So that means that we have real life issues and that we come across each and every day. So, but the only way to be able to overcome those things is if we are true to ourselves. That example you made of a 50 rand note, that but the value remains the same. That's exactly exact same principle that is applied when we are true to ourselves and we live out our lives.
Wow. Well, Mbukele Kai, ngenxa yexesha man, we'll have to leave it here. Next week, we'll be touching on the part, we'll be talking about the bazothini abantu syndrome.
Yes, absolutely.
And after that week, we'll be continuing with this subject of, your identity and authenticity, because the syndrome of bazothini is directly linked to
it
this.
is, absolutely.
So please do stay tuned. And in closing, bro, I just want to read here the full serenity prayer. It goes as this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and ever in the next. That is the serenity prayer. Help me to be able to accept the things that I cannot change and the ability to change, the courage to change those that I can and to know the difference. So, Mbukele Kai, we leave you with that. Think about it. Have you been authentic to yourself? And if not,
there's still a chance.
You have a chance. So up until next time, bro.
Goodbye.
Go serve your king.